Buongiorno e ciao a tutti, I'm Aaron here at the 99 Problemi, and today I have a video on the Passato Prossimo with Essere. This is a follow-up to my previous video on the Passato Prossimo. One of the difficulties that comes up with the Passato Prossimo, or the past tense in Italian, is that you aren't always sure when you need to use the verb essere as a helping verb. Okay, and so what this video will do, we'll be looking at how to form the past tense in Italian, and then moving on to determine when you need to use essere to conjugate verbs in the past. And then we'll of course be looking at some exercises to show that you've understood the lesson. Okay, as in the previous video, I went over how, with this example, ho guardato, I watched or I've watched, you need in the past tense two things. You need one, a form of an auxiliary or helping verb, and this is going to tell you who did the verb. In this case, the o is the io form of avere, which tells you that I am acting. If you saw sono there, you would know that it was either I or they form, because those are the I and they forms of essere, the helping verb. You also need a past participle, which is essentially a verbal adjective. By itself it means having watched, but when coupled with the auxiliary verb, it takes on the sense of an action that took place in the past. We also talked about regular past participles, and in the following video we'll be looking at irregular past participles, so you want to check that out if you're interested in it. In this video I'm just reviewing the formation of the regular past participle. Remember, if it's an aore verb, it becomes atto. If it's an ere verb, it becomes uto, and if it's an iore verb, it becomes ito. So parlare is parlato, vendere is venduto, finire is finito. So one of the first ways to determine whether you are going to conjugate a verb in the past tense with avere or essere is to see whether the verb is transitive or not. And a simple definition of transitive is the subject acting upon an object? And if it is, then you use avere. Okay, I bought milk at the store. I'm clearly acting upon an object, and therefore the verb bought or buy is a transitive verb, because you always have to act upon something. Now, when the verb is intransitive, you're going to use essere, for the most part. There are some exceptions to it. However, don't worry about those just yet. Just try to keep this as a dividing line in your mind. You'll get most of the cases that way. So intransitives, by contrast, are when the subject is acting, but it's not upon an object, and sometimes it's acting upon itself. The subject is acting upon itself, rather. And this could be an example like, I was born. I was born, I died, I went, I came back. All of these, there is an action going on clearly, but nothing is being acted upon. If anything, what's being acted upon is the subject. Okay, another handy tool that you'll see that comes up when you're learning these verbs that take essere in the past tense is that there's a lot of really common ones that exist, and a number of resources will direct you to something called the Casa di Essere, or the House of Essere. And this is really very good. It's a very good mnemonic device to remember which verbs take essere in the past, because you can visualize this house and you sort of picture a person going throughout the house and all the verbs that would be associated with that. For example, well, one is that it's called the House of Essere. So essere is a verb that in the past tense takes essere to be conjugated. Here are a few more. There's venire, to come, entrare, to enter, to return, or arrivare. All of these imply a motion towards the house. Okay, and conversely, there are andare, partire, uscire. Andare to go, partire to leave, uscire to go out. So you sort of picture these verbs coming away from the house, going into the house, etc., and that sort of helps you remember it. There's also salire, which is to go up, and scendere, which is to go down. There's a verb like diventare, which means to become, and that doesn't really have much to do with the house, other than you can picture somebody in the house becoming something while they live in the house. Other verbs, stare, rimanere, restare, all verbs dealing with staying. Vivere, to live, and that, depending on the context, and I won't get into it here, but that can be both conjugated with essere or avere. There's nascere, to be born, and then the house takes this morbid turn where you have somebody cadere, which is the verb to fall, and morire, which is to die. Okay, so kind of a dark humor here in the house of essere, but all of these verbs will take essere. You might want to pause and take notes on this, or do your best to remember these verbs. In this exercise portion, we're going to be looking at conjugating verbs in the Passato Prossimo with either avere or essere for their auxiliary verb. You're going to have to make the determination based on whether the verb is transitive, intransitive, or if it helps you more to determine whether the verb is in the house of essere. So number one, io studiare, we have a transitive verb. Usually you're acting upon something when you studiare, either a book or a subject. And so if you're acting upon somebody, something or somebody, it is a studiare transitive verb. And this one's ho studiato, got to use avere. Number two, tu venire. Venuto is the irregular past participle, and throughout this exercise you're going to see that if there's an irregular past participle, just use that. I've supplied it for you. And you remember that venire is in the house of essere. It is also an intransitive verb, and that one's sei venuto or sei venuta. Number three, lui, andare, you'll get to in a second. Just pause the video and move on from there. When you're done, I'll give you the answers. Okay, number three, lui, andare. He went. È andato. Number four, lei, vedere, irregular past participle visto. It can also be veduto, but more commonly visto. Lei ha visto. Notice no change in the past participle because the use of the helping verb avere. Number five, noi entrare. It is intransitive, so you conjugate it with essere. Siamo entrati o entrate. 6. Voi finire. Avete finito. 7. Loro. The feminine form with nascere. They were born. That is, sono nate. 8. Loro. Salutare. That's hanno salutato. No change in the past participle. 9. Voi andare is siete andati o andate. 10. Noi scendere. Irregular past participle sceso. Remember that is in the house of essere. Is the verb to descend or go down. Noi siamo scesi o scese. Okay, same thing here. Pause the video, and when you're done finishing these exercises, I will give you the answers. Okay, number 11, io fumare, I smoked, ho fumato. 12, loro entrare, that is, sono entrati o entrate. 13, voi studiare, Avete studiato? 14. Io cadere. Remember that's in the house of essere, so that's sono caduto o caduta. 15. Tu hai guardato. You watched. 16. Lei diventare. È diventata. 17. Loro partire. Sono partiti o partite. We don't know the gender there, so we specify I or E. 18. Noi uscire. Siamo usciti o uscite. 19. Lei comprare. The formal form of lei. That's ha comprato. And 20. Lui morire, which is past participle morto. Lui è morto. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you. Be sure to check out other videos at 99 Problemi, and you can follow me on Twitter or on Facebook at 99 Problemi. And hopefully be seeing you real soon. Okay, grazie